Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of y'all, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the message. You know, as messed up as it is, I'm going to tell y'all about this notion of decentering men. I'm going to tell you why it is that decentering men was never really going to happen. It would have been nice if women had ever centered men appropriately or at a medium level, but they didn't. I never grew up in an America in which men were properly centered to begin with. The whole time I've grown up, I've heard about how unimportant men are, how ain't fit men are, how dirty boys are, how inferior boys and men are, or I've just heard nothing at all. I've heard about the responsibilities of being a man, and then I've heard about the toxicity of it even before the term toxic was used. When it was not the term toxic or toxicity, then it would be something else, but it was always that. Something. Every time. It was always something negative. We simply never got properly centered from the beginning. We were not important. Now, women have always acted as if sex is not important. And I'm not really ready to forgive even traditional women in traditional societies for acting as if sex is not important. That right off the bat is something for which I hold conservative women in other societies guilty. Not being a thought is one thing, not being an SLUT is one thing, but acting like it's not important, well, that's just dishonest. And that was actually the footspring from which Westernicians began to exaggerate that and take it even further, so as to decenter men long before I was born. So when I hear women talk about decentering men now, especially black women, I'm telling you now that it's not something they can do now because they've already done it. In order to decenter men now, they would have had to recenter men since the time that they first decentered us. And I was not alive whenever they recentered men. I had not yet been born. All they have done has been to keep us from being centered ever by lying. All manner of dishonesty. And how am I supposed to really respect them just for that level of dishonesty? Who the hell do they think they are just to lie like that, to be that damn deceptive? And how the hell am I supposed to be respectful of them if that's what they're doing, if that's their mission, if that's their goal? To sit there and lie about the relative lack of importance that they find in sex, let alone in men. You see, when you have money, it's not important. But when you don't have it, it's enough of a reason that you don't deserve love. And I'll tell you this. When you're 6'9", it's not important. But if you're 6'3", well, that's enough of a reason to not deserve love. We saw it happen with Xavier Worthy. That man can't catch a break. So I don't know what they're talking about, decentering men. And I've heard some say, well, it's not going to work. That's right, it's not. Because by definition, you can't lose what you never had. You can't lose something again until, once you lost something, you can't lose it again until you regain it and then lose it. To lose what you already lost before, you got to regain it, and they ain't never done it. They haven't undone the decentering. They have not recentered in order to decenter us now. They have always and consistently told us how unimportant we are just to diminutize us, and you and I fell for it, and that's not our fault. I mean, what were we going to know about them? What were they going to do? Come out and tell us the truth? Hey, listen, you know what? You're important in many ways, including below the belt to us. They're busy acting like nowadays they're busy acting like anytime a man ejaculates inside of a woman, especially one that is nice to look at, or even outside of her, on her, after penetration, that he's automatically a criminal. Now, if we're talking about fornication, in a jurisdiction in which fornication is considered illegal, located, yeah, I mean, here, fornication is a crime. It's not enforced anymore. It's pretty much going to require a confession. But fornication is a crime here. So here, men and women have the right to act like whoever fornicates is a criminal. But over there where you live, the women sit up here and act like they have a right to get a high body count. And every single time you're inside of a woman, especially one you like to look at, you're a criminal. You had to violate. You had to take advantage somehow. I mean, I'm telling you right now, if you become a gangster rapper, tall, tatted up, with felonies and a bunch of other baby mamas, and you spit game to a chick and she wants to smash, other women are gonna come along and say, you had what it took to take advantage of her, and that's what you did. Because you're a predator. That day is coming. Well, let me rephrase that. That day would have come, but you young brothers finally did the right thing. They can talk about decentering you all they want to. That's a reaction to you young brothers decentering them. It's not that you don't like them or that you don't notice them. It's not that. You weren't designed to not notice them, to not see them. You weren't designed to be blind to women, and it's not your fault that you're not. But you've also been very keen on protecting yourselves and protecting anything for which you have to work hard. You have rightly been that way, and I am vaingloriously proud of you young brothers for not making it this easy for them. You decentered them. Their talk about decentering you is nothing other than just a reaction. Sour grapes. If you can't reach the grapes, you say they're sour. Nope. Sometimes they are. Other times, no, they're not sour. They're just out of your reach. And they love to tell you that about yourself. Oh, no, see, it ain't the grapes. No, see, that ain't it at all. You just don't qualify. They love to rub this in your face. And now, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with a situation in which you, young brothers, have walked off, stayed away. And they sit up and they have to say now, well, sour grapes, and you're so nice, you don't even sit up and say, no, B word, we're not sour grapes, you just can't reach us. You can't reach us because you taught us so well to stay away from you, to not bother you, so screw you. You're something else. Young as you are, look what you've done. Now here we are, listening to them talk about decentering you. Too little, too late. How they gonna decenter you? They done already made it to where, they done already got it to where they can't decenter you because they never recentered you. But they got to make up something that's not even logically possible to say that that's what they're doing. Anything to consistently diminutize you. And here, you're so nice that it takes me to get up here and tell you that for you to even be consciously aware of or to articulate. Yeah, gentlemen. Quite proud of you. You put it on. You made them know. No, you ain't playing. You made them understand. No. You're not going back. You're not making approaches. So now they got to talk about decentering you. They're already being abandoned. It's so many of you doing this that they can feel the abandonment. The dating websites won't change the software, and they intentionally exaggerate and aggravate the pattern of men being the pursuers to irrational extremes and severities And then when you finally wised up and said, no, you know what? They can make the first moves. Then the dating sites can't even help a lot of these bras. They get on and they get a bunch of likes. But what guys are on the dating sites, the least intelligent ones, and as dumb and goofy and ditzy as the average Westernisha can be, she is somehow so good at judging men's intelligence that they can do it even at a subconscious level. Subconsciously, they know that the men that are still making these approaches are ditzy. Or just, they're not even deep thinkers, and they can't respect them for it. That's one of the reasons why these women sit up and say, I like men that don't like me back, because they know that it takes an intelligent man. Well, they know that it takes some measure of intelligence to not like them back. They consider it a sign of stupidity if you do like them back, as much as they want to tell you that they consider it a sign of booty banditry if you don't like them back. They still think you're stupid. Now, this leads them to start going ahead and associating the hetero orientation with stupidity and the same gender orientation or same gender attraction with intelligence. That tells you that they start to associate that. Now, if they think that it is more intelligent a man that is going to be attracted to other men, then this means they see themselves as the least intelligent option to be attracted to. Now, this is not worldwide. This is a Western phenomenon. But now you understand why I tell you that you need to go ahead and bounce on the Westernisha. Ditch the witch. Decentering men. How they gonna do it? They won't even admit. Look, they will sit up and say that you got all this. You only have importance when it comes down to certain burdens to bear. So you have to bear certain burdens like problem solving, protecting and providing. They get themselves into trouble, but you're supposed to protect them. They overconsume, but you're supposed to provide. They create problems and you're supposed to solve them. And then if you don't want to procreate, you're supposed to procreate. But if you do want to, then they'd rather abort and go to some other man that doesn't want to procreate and have his baby and then bring it back for you to raise. It's always something that's against you. Now, here's the kicker. You know, one of the P's, there's a fifth P. Crimson Cure astutely talked about the 4 P's. But there's a fifth P that the Westernisha, especially the black Westernisha, never wants you to engage in, never wants you to practice. You know what that is? Problem prevention. They do not want you to engage in or practice problem prevention. What does that mean? That means you're telling her, listen, this is a dangerous area. Don't go there, especially without me, but don't go there. I'm not going there, and don't you go there without me. For your safety. Oh, what you scared of? They know what that means. That means I can go over here and I can get him into a fight. So let me see if he's really going to fight or not. Sisters had this thing about them where whatever it is that you do feel, they want to walk you right the F into it. It could be and it could be a completely rational fear. They want you to pretty much have no self-preservation instinct at all. If you pretty much would have to be pushed out of a plane with no parachute in order to start feeling fear, then they would push you out of a plane with no parachute to so-called test you. You can't pass that test. You die whether you scream or not. So when you start talking about trying to prevent, anything you do to prevent a problem is nothing to them except a signal to exactly that same problem. That's how they view it. So forget the interruption just now. I happened to see one of our brothers at this coffee shop I'm standing outside of. He works at a coffee shop at the university in which I teach, but I didn't realize that he was going to be at this branch over here. Forgive the wind noise. But yeah, man, I'm telling y'all, bro. I mean, you try to prevent anything, and all that is to them is a signal as to what they need to walk your butt into so that you deal with exactly the problem you were smart enough to prevent. And they want you to feel like you stupid for preventing it. Like, who the heck are you to prevent anything? Why don't you just go on ahead and face the issue? Why don't you just go on ahead and if you scared of lions, not behind bars, but just out, they want to go on safari. If you're not scared of lions as long as you're armed, then they want to go on safari unarmed. They'll risk their own lives if they're not thinking about what they're doing. And one of the things they like to do is I realize they like to intentionally annoy and frustrate you. Annoy you until you're just consistently annoy you until you just frustrated, short circuit your better judgment, and then set you up for whatever. That's how they like to do it. They plot and plan. All the stupidity they insist on practicing. But then when it comes down to plotting on you, they turn every corner of their brain on. They operate and initialize every corner of their brain. How are you going to deal with that? You're not. So you have to leave. You can't bother with them in the West. And I told you guys one thing. I did say, I hate to say I told you so, but I did tell you guys so. In about 2019, 2020, I said to you guys, they are going to export the misandry and the feminism. Whether they want to or not, they're going to do it. They're already doing it. I didn't realize how much they could do so unintentionally. I said they were going to try to do it. It didn't dawn on me that TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat were going to become the ways that they could do it without even trying. They'll record stuff for only a local audience, and somebody over here will see that stuff and think, yeah, that's right, I'm on that stuff too. They'll sit up and say, girl, a man with no money don't deserve no kind of love. And some lady who's sitting over here in her dad's house will start saying, yeah, that's right. And if a man does show up at a dad's house to ask to marry her, even if the dad's like, listen, most young men ain't gonna have a lot of money. The economy's busted. I'm looking into, is he a good dude? Now I can see he's a good dude. The question is, do you want to marry? She might tell dad no, but the reason is she might say it, even if dad is not just materialistic and crazy, because there are dads here that are reasonable. She might be like, look, I don't marry no brokies. I don't marry no broke dusties, even though she might not say it in those particular words. You know, over here in Saudi, one of my former students came to my office. One of my better English-speaking students, and he made a lot of improvements too. He comes to see me in my office every so often. That man came to me, he said, yo, Instructor Black, you know that now you got these women on TikTok, big as a house, because this country has an obesity problem. He said, you got these women out here, big as a house, and they got the nerve to sit up here and say that their man has to be in the gym. They want a man with muscles. He can't be fat. And she fat as a house. He asked me, what's the name of that really big animal that lives in the sea, but it's not a fish? I said, are you talking about whales? He said, yeah, that's it, whales. He said they'll be the same size. And I told him, well, you know, in the States, brothers and white guys alike call them land whales. And he busts out laughing. He said, that's a hell of a name. Land whale? Damn, I guess so, though. Yep, land whale. Big old land whales sitting up got the nerve to talk about what you got to do to be with them. You got to be in the gym. And you know what? You know who they getting that from. You know who they are. Because there was a time white women just knew that they couldn't sit up and say stuff like that. If a white woman got big, she had to get a gym brother. She knew that. There was that time. It's not like that no more, but there was that time. Sisters have been on that. They've been on that stuff for decades, 3 decades. Oh, she gonna get big, but he better have some muscle and be tall. And she could have a busted self-esteem behind that stuff, but it's his job to build up a self-esteem. Let him simply be aware of something that sisters don't really like and not have any self-esteem issues. He's just aware this is not his strong suit in the eyes of women. And she'd be like, you sound like you got a self-esteem problem. How you gonna tolerate that double standard? I mean, hell, I've known for a while that they ain't in the light-skinned brothers. If I say that I'm aware of this, sisters be like, oh, you got low self-esteem because you light-skinned. No, I don't have low self-esteem. I'm aware that that's not what you're checking for. Being aware that you don't like something is not the same as me having low self-esteem based on it. I don't imagine, let alone somehow feel convinced that my self-worth or that my worth as a person is lesser because I'm lighter skinned. Now, I do understand that I'm going to be less trusted by more abundantly melanated people in certain places. I saw it on Hajj. But that doesn't mean my actual worth is less. They just simply don't know why they should trust me. It has to do with what they don't know and what they learn, not my actual worth as a person. It ain't even personal. They're always on that stuff. You can't communicate with these broads. So even most of what they say is not linguistically or intellectually honest. So don't entertain what they say as if it's actually what they're doing. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Decentering men. Okay, you can look at what they mean, but what are they actually doing? It doesn't fit the definition of what the hell they've been saying all this time. Because they can't. They never could. They've been decentered you. They've done that for 3 decades. Or, well, more than that. Like I said, I don't remember a time when men were properly centered. Even when men were oftentimes the superheroes, I don't recall a time when men were properly centered. I have no sense of that. Even then, the men being the heroes or superheroes of movies pretty much meant that men had to be super to qualify. That's the message I got. If I can't fly, I need not apply. I got to be bulletproof. That was the idea that I got the whole time. So yeah, I'm pretty much done listening to them talk that craziness about decentering and when did they do anything else? So anyway, I hope this helped out. I mean that. And black heart, black mind, black out, assalamu alaikum, and black heterosexual non-select male power, because they don't like it in black patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. As always, thank you for flying with us here on Jet Black Air, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.